Finance itself remains operational and very effective. The President has asked Mr. Anthony C. Miles to act as Minister of Finance until further notice, or in other words, until what you're hearing in the focus and I know that so many things happen at once, sometimes people forget there's a solid media publications of testing national organization, quote unquote, and imaginary tension between current president, former president, or concerned about presidential long usage and all that. Definitely remind all of those who doing those kinds of things. Why is it true that Liberia as a nation belongs to many international organizations? Those involved there will not compromise other nations. Unimaginable that people will be just thinking, maybe that international entity organization can just interfere with your domestic government person and tell you what doesn't happen. That is not happening here. There is no so-called tension between the current president and ex-president. And suggesting some international body having a kind of interest in what we do domestically in our government process, it's not true. There are southern nations that are elected government, there are responsibility to perform those responsibilities with power. Because we too do not do so for any institution or any country. Of course, irrespective of our elements in different organizations, whether it's global, regional, or sub-regional, respect the sovereign nature of each of the member states, and none will do anything to interfere what is required domestically on those nations as part of the government process. So for those who are going around with those kinds of information, not doing yourself good, focus on positive things, not those things that will benefit our people. We also, as ECOWAS ambassador anywhere, in the top region or UN ambassador anywhere, change anything about how food is good on the table of people. Hospitals are operational here, and the schools are quick and they can be run, our roads are accessible to all parts of the country. Everything that are directly pulled on the interest of our people, these things will show or play impact on them. So let's focus on what is good for the country. Let's focus on what we want to see ourselves doing as a nation, rather than dwelling on all of the unnecessary petty things that sometimes will take our attention away. One of the pillars of the president's agenda in our agenda is agriculture. And that's an area of expertise for the president himself. So, great concern and interest is placed on this sector. Same at the Ministry of Agriculture has been taking the phone by one. All be aware they recently launched the National Agricultural Development Plan, which in their opinion will boost food security and economic growth in Nigeria. That plan is estimated to cost about $718 billion and implementable in the next 6 years by the Ministry of Agriculture and other stakeholders in the agricultural sector. The goal is to ensure that Nigeria is able to feed herself. And this is something that all of us should embrace. Nations struggle to feed themselves led at the mercy of others. They are blessed even now as we speak. There are many nations that are experiencing problems. I guess all of you are tired of the rain. I was coming in the hall and a lot of you are out. Somebody said to me, you're running away from the cold. In other countries, that's not the situation. We have maximum rainfall, we got good soil, we got everything that we need to enhance agriculture. And that's one of the things you got to be thinking about as we're talking about the FDB. But part of the goal is not just to use all of them for road. A portion of them will be used to enhance agriculture to clear the farmland for production. And imagine what a revolution it will be that you have all those moving equipment that are not just making our roads, including parts of our road possible, that they will also be ensuring that our people can produce enough, because feeding ourselves is the most. And the worker administration, they really focus on that, committed to that, and we are all impressed that the Ministry of Agriculture playing that role that they are supposed to show that all of us get it. Having said that, I was pleased, and the guests that are supposed to be here arrived. So I will end my intervention here for the so Mr. Sandro will now take charge by the guests, but he will also do something.
Oh, he's the Minister of
Thank you very much, Honorable General Mapipia, Minister of Information, Republic of Liberia, the official spokesperson of the government, laying out the issues, making very clear the government position on the issue he spoke about. We have with us here today a visiting delegation here to work in partnership with the Liberia Electricity Corporation. As you know, energy is a very cardinal component of the government's direct agenda. So the LEC is working exceedingly well to expand the energy sector. So, Dr. Lawrence Jones will make remarks on behalf of the delegation. Will be joined later on by Mr. Mone Arakatan. Mr. Jones, after mounting the podium, will make the appropriate recognition of members of the delegation. Now I have the privilege to welcome to the national podium Dr. Lawrence Jones for his remarks.
Good afternoon, and it's a pleasure to be here. First of all, Mr. Minister, thanks for having us. Let me first apologize for our late arrival. Obviously, things happening unexpected occurred, and so we apologize. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Lawrence Jones. As I said, I'm the Vice President. This is a big institute, an organization based in we also have about 70 international members. These are united utilities all over the world that operate in 90 countries. And one of those countries that they operate in Liberia, the Liberia Electricity Corporation is a member of the LEC. As an institute, our mission is to work around the world to provision of electricity around the world. If you combine our U.S. members and our international members, our members provide electricity to about 4 billion people. So our focus as an organization is to ensure that utilities around the world are operating in an environment that provides the right regulatory as well as policy and investment environment to build the electricity sectors around the world. Our partnership with the Liberia Electricity Corporation began about 2 years ago. The focus of that partnership is to work with the LEC as well as other stakeholders in Liberia to foster the closing of any gaps we see, how you operate a utility, how you make sure you have the right access to the resources in terms of generation, the infrastructure, transmission, as well as distribution. So I think this is important. This is an important time for Liberia in terms of and Mr. Minister, if you permit me, I will just add a little personal note. As some of you may know, I was born in Liberia. I went to Brixton Institute as well as the military school at the University of Liberia and at the Country University College before I spent about 25 years working worldwide. So for me, as a native of Liberia, electricity has been most of my life because my father used to work at the Liberia Electricity Corporation. 70s and 80s, by the time it was actually called the Public Utility Authority, as you all know. So electricity is very important, and I think the goal here for us is to really bring and share the best practices from around the world with our colleagues. We've been here now for about a week and almost 2 weeks actually. We've had meetings not just with the LEC, but we've had meetings with other stakeholders, including representatives from the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, folks from the Ministry of Mines and Energy. We met with schools. We actually had a session with the students from the 7 schools in Monrovia, including outside of Monrovia as well, BFI, Don School, and some of the other technical vocational schools in the country. What was important, and we said this previously, is that that particular session with the students was perhaps one of the most inspiring for us. But the meeting with the students was very important because what we believe as an industry worldwide is that human energy is the foundation of building an industry. What we learned talking to those young students, their bright minds, very curious. There was a young lady from Bosco that I spoke to who had so much passion for electricity. So with the human energy, the potential that is there, we believe that the foundation for building a strong electricity sector is there. Prior to coming, one of the discussions we have looked at is to look at the progress, Mr. Minister, that Liberia has made. As you all know, the LEC today is run by almost only Liberians. Compared to 10 years ago, the LEC had been run by different foreign operators who did their best as they could. But today, based on what we have seen and based on the observation, Liberians should be proud of the progress that has been made. Today, there is something called non-technical losses, which, for all intents and purposes, means how do you reduce power theft in the country? And the non-technical losses of the LEC today has reduced by almost 20%, which is a big number compared to the rest of the world. And so when we look at the progress that has been made here, by the government, by the LEC, and by others, the donors and others, there's much to be proud of. But there's still much to do, because to be very honest, as we see the country, we know that power theft is still a big issue. We know that the infrastructure still needs to be there. So we've had discussions this week with representatives from the LEC, technical discussions, policy discussions. We've also had meetings with the board to exchange ideas. So we hope that the dialogue and the relationship with the corporation, through the Edison Electric Institute, and of course with the government and others, is to build the human capacity, to build the human energy and is that on the issue of power theft, one thing I said on the radio station, I was fortunate to visit a prime radio yesterday and also OK radio. And one of the key messages we tried to convey, that power theft is bad. When you steal power, you actually affect the entire country. So we as a people, as a community, as a consumer of electricity, needs to support the government, support the LEC, because every kilowatt hour that is stolen from the LEC actually affects the government's long-term vision for building the country. It also affects the LEC's ability to do its job. So we as a community, we were also fortunate to visit the LEC anti-theft task force that is run by Mrs. Miro. And one of the things that I said when I was there was that every time someone steals power, that person is making it difficult for a mother to get the treatment at the JFK. It's making it difficult for a student to get education because that means there's less power to give them. So with that, I'm going to now introduce my two colleagues, and they will each come and say a few words and be happy to take questions. So first, let me introduce both of them and they will come up. First is Mr. David Owens. He's the president and founder of a company called The Vision. And David was also the one who was asked by the U.S. government after the hurricane in Puerto Rico to rebuild the system in Puerto Rico. So we'll invite David, and after David, my next colleague joining us from Switzerland is Mr. Marco Montefiore. We invited Marco to be part of this delegation, not because only of the Northeast region of energy citizenship, but because, as you know, Mr. Minister, one of the big things we need in Liberia, in the electricity sector, and many other sectors, is investment. Mr. Montefiore is an investor who works with companies around the world. So after David gives his brief remarks and experience in Puerto Rico, we'll invite Marco to say a few words, and then we'll be happy to take questions. So, David.
Yes, Dr. Lawrence Jones, giving his introductory comments and welcoming his colleagues.
So I want to just share an experience. I want to put it in context. Lawrence mentioned right after the major hurricane, Puerto Rico had this massive hurricane, Hurricane Maria. Following that hurricane, I was asked to come to Puerto Rico to help to restore electricity and to help the implementation of a vision and about making the electric system in Puerto Rico more reliable and more resilient. When I arrived in Puerto Rico, it was incredible. 95% of the roads were impassable. Over 4,000 people lost their lives. The total island was black. Wastewater treatment, non-existent. Clean drinking water, non-existent. So, what I learned from that experience, 4 years of going back and forth to Puerto Rico, was the importance of building blocks if you're seeking to try to enter legislation. Many years ago, I was looking at Liberia, over 25 years ago, and said, no, if we could electrify Liberia, it would uplift the spirit, uplift the economy. But when I went to Puerto Rico and I relate to my experiences there and try to inform you of some of the elements that are important if we're trying to improve the electricity system, here's some of the things that I found out. First, you need a plan. You need a vision. You need to know where you want to go. Obviously, that's an important role of your life. Where do I want to go? What's my vision about the electricity system? How can I make it so all Liberia? Lawrence mentioned power theft. Let me just push that aside. There are several elements of infrastructure. One element is the power supply facilities. You have hydro facilities here. You use some oil, but you need to have power supply. You need to have plants that produce electricity. You can have the plants to produce electricity, but you also need the wires to carry that electricity. That's called an energy delivery system. So the brief time that I've been here in Liberia, I see you do not have a strong energy delivery system. You do not have adequate supplies to provide electricity, but you have a vision. But that vision is not understood by everyone. And is that vision implementable? The vision for the electricity system in Liberia has got to be implementable. It's got to be something that all of you are aware of. It's got to be something that you all feel very passionately about, can be achieved. We need to be able to strengthen the grid. We need to be able to build more power facilities. We need to be able to connect communities that are not connected today. That requires investment. Now we get money from the government, but we need to find a way, and that money is not enough. We need to find a way where we can create an investment opportunity for those who want to come and help Liberia out. And they're going to only help Liberia out if they believe in a plan that you have, if they believe and share your vision. So that's why I'm excited to be here, and I hope that we are asked some questions about how we can go forward. My experience in Puerto Rico, I think, is pretty helpful because I saw a system that was totally destroyed that is being rebuilt. I saw a system that's totally destroyed where the legislature had a strong vision about where they wanted to take that utility. I saw a system that was totally destroyed that created a partnership with the customers. I saw a system that was totally destroyed where the universities are helping to implement that vision. I saw a system that was totally destroyed where private capital is beginning to come into Puerto Rico. So I hope we have the opportunity to talk about some of that. Thank you again for this chance to speak with you today.
So he's Mr. David Owens, a representative
Thank you
from the US.
It's great to be here. I'm a Swiss born Italian. I had to travel around the world to understand the complexities of the energy systems. My background is in oil and gas, but I've also invested in the energy transition. The big word today is energy transition, and investments are a key enabler of it. So when you come to a place like Liberia, you see a lot of opportunities, and you also hear that money is an issue. But let me tell you that in the investment world, money is typically never an issue. There's money sitting, waiting for opportunities. So opportunities is what money are looking for. Then the question is, how can Liberia become an opportunity for foreign investors? And that's where I think David and Lawrence have sort of given already a hint on the direction we need to go. The starting point is the vision. The vision that the country wants to have for the next, not year, 2 years, or decade, but for the next 100 years. And from that vision, you walk backward and you figure how you're going to execute. There has to be a vision and a commitment and a responsibility to execute it. And by doing that, investors would know where to go, where there is an issue, when there is a glitch, to understand how that is going to be sorted. Because what investors want eventually is a return. They want their money back. They need to know who to talk to, who to call when there is an issue. And there's always issues, not just in Liberia, everywhere. There's issues in startups in Silicon Valley. There's issues in startups in Tel Aviv, in Berlin, in Spain, in India, in Singapore. The investors want to know who is responsible, and they want to be reassured. So investing is also about storytelling. Entrepreneurs need to know what they want to achieve. They need to know that they never need to overpromise. In fact, they should always underpromise and overdeliver. So there is an element of being able to become an entrepreneur and raise the standards to international levels, but it is absolutely possible. It's happened in pretty much every country. It's happening in other countries in Africa. I recently met an entrepreneur from Angola who has got his own startup on robotics. So you can attract funds internationally as long as you are committed to deliver a vision. And this vision doesn't have to be what your neighbors have done. It has to be something that reflects your own. I understand that there is a huge challenge. Unfortunately, words are never fully understood, especially by people who haven't suffered them. How they destroy your willingness to do things, how it unsettles the daily life. But human beings have been around the planet for tens of thousands of years. They've always gone through war. They've always recovered. So there's a way out, no matter how dark and grim the situation can look. And in this respect, I would like to shift to my second topic and wrap up. I wrote a book about energy citizenship for one simple reason. I called it energy citizenship because originally, actually, it was a diary for my children. And I dedicated the book to my children, but also to 8 billion people worldwide. Why 8 billion people? Because the book explains that energy, and not just electricity, is the foundation of society, right? Society, economic growth, civilization. 1.5 million years ago, when the early human beings learned how to communicate, that's around the time when early human beings learned how to master fire. And so on and so forth, you can draw a line, a parallel between human civilization and the use and the mastery of energy. So learning how to understand and appreciate the value that energy has for society on a daily basis is essential for all the citizenship, all the way up to decision makers and policy makers. Because by appreciating the role that energy plays in restarting a country or in fostering growth, that's where you basically turn things around and you restabilize and you regain your trajectory and you basically build a long-term sustainable future.
Thank you.
So this Michael Terry is the founder and president of the.
So, like I said in my initial remarks, in the next 6 years, this country will see a lot of progress. And of course, one of the places we must pay very keen attention to is the energy sector. And it is pleasing to us, actors on the international system are also focused on what is happening here, particularly in this case with regards to the energy sector. We're glad that an international person who is of Nigerian origin is here with a team to see exactly what is happening in our energy sector and how they can be helpful. I think about a week ago, we signed a grant of over 40 million to connect additional 500,000 households. You can do all the interventions with energy, electricity, until it benefits the ordinary people and serves as a source of empowerment for them. Still got a long way to go. I traveled over the weekend to Basel, and I see this rapid expansion of the erection of poles and connecting of the transmission lines all over the place. Because don't forget, the power stations that were built under the West African Power Pool, the CFSG, landed in a number of places, including somewhere around the highway, in the canal, in Kakata, somewhere along the bombing route. The intent of those power stations is to provide electricity, but until you have the infrastructure for distribution and transmission, you don't get the energy into the homes of people. And we see that progressing very well, and we're pleased to have seen the EU provide grants that will ensure in a period of time additional 500,000 homes and not just home, but other places being connected. So we're glad that we have you and your team here. I hope Mr. Katan was here to also lay more emphasis on how this can enhance what they do at the LEC. But it's a good thing. Get ready for that. In the next 6 years, expansionary work everywhere, whether it's in road construction, whether it's in expansion and distribution of energy, whether it's in food security and agricultural advancement, whether it's ensuring that our academic institutions are up to the standards that are required, whether it is to ensure that our health sector is strengthened and the delivery to the people, all that is required will have the attention of the government. I am very keen on the energy sector, because this ministry is called the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. So we have some responsibility over the hospitality industry. They are challenged. The tourists can leave from here, maybe you go to Gambia, maybe a family of 5. You spend just a little to stay there, do what you want to do. If the same number of persons come here, the cost will also will like triple, because hotels here are expensive, because we don't generate enough electricity. Many of them operate on their generators. That's additional cost, and all of that impact the price. So we got challenges with our hospitality sector. So expanding energy to enable them to do what they have to do, which will eventually lower the cost of the services they provide, is something that is of interest to us. So we thank you and your team for coming. We have a very robust and active media here. They like to engage guests. And I'm very sure they will not disappoint me, because I already see the land being formed. So we'll now relax and take their questions.
So,
Thank you,
the
Minister.
Commissioner
You have the full
Revolution
impact
and Tourism
on
is now concerned an action period here.
Thank you so much. My name is Boris Walenti.
So you will have to take note of 3 questions at a time so you can address it. Thank you.
So my name is Morris Walenti, and I report for OKFM. You know, I was feeling somehow when the minister was talking about, you know, some connections in passing. Sorry that some other country is not participating. But on a serious note, sorry that sirs, I'm not familiar with your name, sorry, but I got a few concerns. You know, in Liberia, one of the things that Liberians are faced with, particularly from the LEC angle, is that when people pay for their meters, you know, they don't get it on time. Sometimes that can prompt, you know, power theft. So I want to ask, do you care to maybe propose some ways, you know, that we can mitigate the issue of power theft in Liberia? And another thing is, you think we have the capacity, maybe I'm sure maybe you did some assessment anywhere across the country, you can see some waterfalls and all of that. Do you think we need another hydro in the country in order to supply our countries? And to Minister Pierre, thank you so much. You talked about Minister Bwana Kamara resignation. Do you care to tell us whether the minister cite any reason behind his resignation?
Thank you. My name is George Momo, and I report for KCK Liberia. So my question goes to Dr. Jones. Thank you for the partnership to our energy sector. There is this concerned about the low water level at Mankofe during the dry season. So as an expert, I want to know what's your expert opinion, or how do you think we can handle that? And you spoke of the Mankofe plan. I don't know whether you saw the CLSG line that travels from Tabu through the Kuro border to Hapo, Maryland, and of course River G. At that point, we have nothing like breakup. Just in case there is a problem, we will have our energy people going there to settle things. But instead, there will be equal place to Ivory Coast. So, as an expert, I mean, how do you think we can handle that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ibrahim Sherry, and I'm both for the Nigerian News Agency. I am more concerned about the National Agricultural Development Plan that was launched yesterday, because over the years, so the minister disappeared. Because over the years, we have seen so many money being pumped into the agricultural sector in this country, but we still have data to show. So I want to know, what are the plans by your government? How do you intend to achieve the National Agricultural Development Plan that was launched yesterday?
So we have three already, Minister.
Thank you so much. So my name is James Mbara. So out of the guests will answer the questions or the concerns from me. My concern is been drawing to the speaking point that has to do with power thefts and government officials refusing to know that they're supposed to pay for power instead only the citizens. What are some of the mechanisms you use in other countries to avoid power thefts and making government officials to know that they themselves will pay for power and not only the citizens?
Thank you. We address your concern.
Thank you. Those are great questions. Let me start first, and David, I'll call you to stand next to me while you soon can go stand there, and I will address it. Let me first address the question regarding the low water level at Mankofe. That is not a new problem in Liberia. In fact, that is not a new problem in many parts of the world. Because we have climate change, like the minister said, that's happening around the world. The hotter it gets, we have more evaporation and less water in the hydro during the year, especially during the dry season, not during the whole year, but during the dry season. Right now, because of the rainy season in Liberia, we have excess hydro, we have more water, but when the dry season comes. So what some countries do is you either have what is called a diverse set of resources. So besides the hydro, what you will also have, we have a solar, a utility scale solar. And as I've been informed, the LEC is currently finalizing the process to build a 20 megawatt solar plant next to Mankofe. What that will do is that during the dry season, when you have more heat, or you have more sun, you have more solar power, so that will balance out a fluctuation that's happening at the hydro. But there's another resource that Liberia has. And the resource is what is called demand response or consumer response. Because if you walk around Liberia and you go into different buildings, you will see that people actually waste electricity, right? And sometimes you make the air condition much cooler than it should be. So one way to reduce the load on LEC and to reduce the need for power is to control how much you use, to manage so-called demand response. The other comment I will make regarding, and I'll have David talk about the issue regarding how to reduce power theft and some of his experiences from around the world. On the issue of the CLSG line and how to deal with the how you will send crews to help to maintain it, why not use the resources in Liberia? It comes to deal with building capacity. As you know, the LEC, based on my understanding, is now trying to improve its human capacity, but they don't have enough. So for them to send their engineers all the way to the CLSG line crossing border to make those repairs, right now is probably much more cost effective to keep using the Ivorian skill set until the LEC can build its capacity. And then the last way to address this issue, which I know the LEC might be thinking about, is to use technology. You don't have to always send humans to the site to restore the site after a problem. You can use technology, you can use sensors and other ways to address that issue. David, why don't you talk a little bit about some of your experiences around the mitigation of power theft?
So power theft is a big issue. And it was an issue in Puerto Rico and other countries that I've gone to. It's a huge issue. Lawrence said something that really stimulated my thinking with respect to how to deal with power theft. First, in places that I've gone where power theft has been big, you have tremendous fines and penalties, okay, to discourage power theft. But that doesn't always work. So you need sensors, you need monitors, you need to always be able to see the system. Power theft puts lives at risk. When you steal electricity, you're impinging upon the safety of that electric system and the workers who work on that electric system. So substantial outreach and education are critically important. And metering. I said sensor and meters. You have to be able to see what's occurring on your electric system at all times. And you do have to have heavy penalties and heavy fines. There's no simple solution. You have to use all of the above. And I know that I've seen an improvement or decline in power theft in Liberia because there's a team of folks that go and they look throughout the entire system and they look at areas where there is constant power theft and they police those areas. And they call people that steal power criminals. So there's a hard way of dealing with it and there's a soft way of dealing with it. But you need all of the above, in my opinion.
David, if I may just add regarding the soft way. Power theft harms the country. Power theft harms every Liberian. So we who are consumers in a community, when someone is stealing power, it is our responsibility to not just inform our community leaders or the LEC. It is our responsibility to tell those people stealing power that stealing power is wrong. That stealing power is not fair. Now, the question the gentleman also asked was about, he said how to get everyone to pay their fair share. Everybody is a customer of LEC. And that means the customer has to pay the bill. To my understanding, the law doesn't say customer XYZ has a different preference. So all the customers, and I think Mr. Minister, I heard that the Ministry of Lands and Mines is going to start putting meters on all the government buildings to measure the amount of power that is consumed. And if I'm correct, you can correct if I'm wrong, that starting next year, they will have prepaid meters on the ministry so that the ministry will know what they are consuming. That's a big step because as you all know, it all starts from the top. So if the ministry is paying their electricity bill, more people will pay their electricity bill. Take more questions.
Yeah. Take one question. Well, I try to answer the one that asked me, but to get the record straight, an impression will not be created here that government entities are using the LEC currently and not paying for it. That's not true. That's not true. The meter system will be good because it is good for me to know the extent of current I'm using. As it stands, we're just using it, right? But we're not using it free. One of the things that used to happen was each government entity would file to settle their own electricity. Then the government said, no, Ministry of Finance take responsibility. The government will take responsibility to the Ministry of Finance. So it is the Ministry of Finance that is supposed to be making that payment in bulk to the LEC for the services used. But there's a general concern too if the ministry is paying, but you cannot track the amount of current that has been used by, say, Ministry of Information, Ministry of Lands and Mines. That's why the prepaid meter systems is something that we work on. The LEC is a government entity. We want to make sure that it survives. We've heard the managing director talk much about the amount that government owes. We don't expect the LEC to be efficient when we owe them that much. So it's a good thing. Modern collective, you're working for OKFM. Then now when you work at home money, say you want to work there, you resign. So they asking you why. You got to be concerned about the fact that Maryland resigned from OKFM. So I think the information that you needed, you have it, which is, I can confirm that the Minister of Finance resigned. I can also state that the current Deputy Minister for Fiscal Affairs, Myers, Anthony C. Myers, has been appointed by the President to act until the next permanent leadership is determined. And I think that's enough of an information. We can't be putting through individuals people to say, oh, you say you resign. Tell why you resign. Do that. So what is available to me, what I've said to you, and that is, yes, we can confirm that he resigned. Yes, we have somebody who's stepping in until otherwise other. I think that's what the media needs. The agricultural development plan, all of you journalists were invited. It was a very big ceremony, the president was there. So I expect you to be knowledgeable rather than wanting me to kind of explain. Maybe if you need more information, I can send to the agricultural minister, Minister of Information. I think the agricultural minister will be able to take more about that plan. Maybe I can say it. But at least I was able to say to you the plan is done. I was able to say to you what the cost implication is for that plan, 780 billion. That's a lot of money. The Minister of Agriculture is on record of saying before President Banga leaves power, the country should be able to feed itself. I'm sure the plan that has been launched is in tolerance of that. And we look forward to seeing our country be able to feed itself. Look at the rest situation in our country. When you have scarcity or shortage, I remember in 2023, there was a situation where you could see women climbing over fence to fight for rights. People looking for rent and you're looking for gold dust. You can find solution to those kinds of situations if you reach the level where you can substantively feed yourself. So I stand in the corner of the agricultural minister who believes that, and I also stand with him in ensuring that we scrupulously implement the new plan that they launched. Those of you who are farmers, start thinking of making big plans because when those yellow machines are all here, all intact, they're not supposed to be costed. They are going to help you to expand the farmland and all of that. All of these things can help us to reach that. You know, the manual thing we can do here, struggling, has been the problem. But some level of mechanization which we now see coming forward can help us to get it. I'm sure those are all elements of the plan that was launched.
So we go back to.
Yes, my name is Samuel G. and this communication goes to the factor of NHS relationship. We have a major problem in Liberia when it comes to reading. Even the governmental sector, not many of them read. I can tell you that. The thing is, now with your assistance being reflected in the distribution of some of your books, because I'm also a member of the Liberia Studio Writers. We can work with the Ministry of Information. I'm very good. The thing is, are you going to give the books free or they are going to be sold?
Good question. My name is Desmond Moyo, and I report for Indoor TV. My concern goes to the Minister of Information. I want to know, Honourable Minister, how can you reconcile the public perception with the government decision in the entry of these earthquake machines when the public is believing that the government violated the law? But it is true, the machines are necessary for our development. And now you have admitted that indeed the information about these machines coming in countries, there were no formal agreement or formal arrangement for the fact that these machines are necessary for our development. So can we simply believe that indeed, while the machines are good for our country, but the government never obeyed or never followed the right regulations or procedures? The president made communication to the two houses. Can you better explain some of those formalities within the communications? It is not just about you saying about the machines, but those explanatory content within the communication made for these houses.
Oh, just wait. I will just answer this question. So I was sitting down confused. I don't know what public perception you're talking about. You mean the same public I stormed the street the other day just to see the machine being moved from the port to the BTC? I'm not sure it's the same public you're talking about. The public is not interested in your politics. The public see the machine, do what machines can do. They want their roads to be okay. Some journalists are reporting, and you're one of them. You just say the road are leading to Douala right now, is a death trap. They're not wrong. Look at those roads. Where do you think we solve the problem on that road? Collapse and hole. Machines. So no, the public is not going to be on that. Yes, some people are right to have their concerns about following the law, and as a government, we too must follow the law, right? But if the president communication says no formal agreement has been reached, no financing agreement, what are you talking about? The government is not the one that brought the machine in a way. Someone who is interested in helping the country has brought the machine. And because the person has brought the machine, the government now, they say no. Let's work together as a government because this is good for our people. So the president played that leadership role. He's bringing the colleagues on the other side of the stuff, and they're talking. And I don't want to speak for them, but I'm not sure that anybody is not interested in having those movie agreements. All the officials of government will come from different places. Some are from Riverside, Sino, Grandview, Grand Crew. They see their people suffer. How do we forget so soon? Some months back, didn't we see people stay on the highways for weeks, if not days? We see them. Until we can have the roads paved, how do we believe those issues can be solved? It's true the intervention we're talking about. And before wanting to talk about it, that's why I say our leaders are talking. Isn't that why you want from your leaders? The time is already taken to be combating in the public with talking. And in the end, that talk will be for the good of the nation and the people. But no, I don't agree with you that there's any public perception against the machine, because just to move it from the BTC, from the Freeport to the BTC, that's how the black all over the place, everywhere they pass. Because those people's interest is something there to be clean our roads, something there to clean our farms, something there to do this one. As of the GT asking for the president, the Germany has to be far ahead of us. I think from the president saw the letter on Facebook. On Facebook, you see all the content you're talking about in the letter. And I'm making a explain all the everything, explanatory mark, what do you call it? Explanatory content, everything is on Facebook.
Good afternoon, my name is Korea Philip. I have a question for the guest of LEC, the Edison Electric Institute. My first question, we talked about having operations in about 90 countries worldwide. In like we tried for the tariff of the Liberia Corporation, building how or low. Can you tell us how comparatively low or high it is with the countries you are operating in? My second question, we talked about building the capacity of the LEC, look at human capacity. Did you visit any university like Europe to see us selling something about electricity or engineering that you are working with? And lastly,
no, stop right there. Just say a question for me, other than that stuff.
Thank you.
Well, Lincoln is Dahlia and I represent Imperial TV. Honorable Minister, it's so interesting that we have those 285 machines already in the country. Okay, started coming. Okay, so how soon we expect those machines to be distributed to the other countries?
As soon as they finish arriving, they'll think about that.
And so for the LC, yes, we want to know in Maryland County and River G, they have started distributing meters. And there is a huge concern of citizens that complain that the price of the meter, the cost attached to the meter is too expensive. Can you speak to that, sir?
I don't know the price first, but it's saying on myself that I'm listening.
Actually, I don't know the price they are selling it over there, but we want to know how much the meter will cost. And because we are getting two feet in Moruga, the meter is being sold $50, and in Maryland County, it's something like $110, $120. So we'd like to get clarity. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Bestman, and I report from Boston, Liberia. Firstly, I'm grateful to God to see that joined here and that of Marco. Yesterday was a very impactful program, a town hall meeting at the Ministerial Complex, that which I was open to question. But then you responded to one of the questions as it relates to technology. I wish I have a follow-up question to that. And one main question that also has to do with infrastructure challenges. So I want to know what role will new technology play in terms of decentralizing energy systems and then accelerating electrical efforts in reducing prices. That is a follow-up question to what you responded initially. And my question is, I want to know what are some significant infrastructure challenges to electrifying nations like Liberia, and how can we overcome them considering factors such as energy storage? Thank you.
All right, so you ended there to answer the question because there's almost 2 LBC when it comes to the internet.
Okay, so I'll try to answer those questions in the interest of time. Marco, quick briefly, the Marco donated a few books for a few people, not a lot of books. It's up to him. The books, he doesn't sell the books right now, it's up to him. I'm sure he can make the PDF available. So to answer that question, Marco will work with the LEC and with the minister to see how the book can be disseminated across Liberia, and I'll put you in touch with the minister to answer that question. Coming just quickly, in the interest of time, your first question regarding the meters. I've been in Liberia 2 weeks. He's been there for 2 days, got there last night. He's been there for a week. The question you're asking is a very specific question as it relates to the LEC. So I'll direct you to talk to the LEC about what those meters will cost and why they're not going to cost. Nothing we can comment on at this point. What I will comment on is the issue around you mentioned the comparison of tariffs. Tariffs, there are a lot of things that go into determining tariff. The best is to get the right answer regarding tariff. It's not just the LEC, but it's to talk to the Liberian Electricity Regulatory Commission. They should be able to break down to you the tariff structures in Liberia. Every country has a different structure, like Mr. Owen said. In Puerto Rico, they have a certain structure. I think what we need to understand here is that when we see the price of electricity in Liberia, we need to ask, what are the factors that are affecting the cost? One factor that we don't talk about is infrastructure. The building of a transmission line, and the minister knows this, or a substation or a transformer, those things cost money. So when you see the tariff, it's not just to say the price of the fuel, it's also the infrastructure that has to be built, which is all the things that go into determining the cost. On infrastructure, the gentleman asked the question, what are the things that go into infrastructure? Yes, technologies can help to make infrastructure smarter. But I think the very first thing we need to also think about is how to maintain the infrastructure. Liberian government, based on my history, and I'm sure the minister can talk to this, when the government builds an infrastructure, the citizens have to do their part to maintain the infrastructure, to make sure that we keep it playing, to make sure that we keep it functioning. But you cannot build an infrastructure and the very same citizens who are supposed to benefit by maintaining the infrastructure. It's about building new things, it's about maintaining the things you already have. So I think regarding universities, no, we haven't visited universities. Like I said, EEI works with utilities around the world, and we're happy to expand our discussion with universities in Liberia. Maybe I'll just call David to say one quick word about infrastructure and the experience in Puerto Rico, and then make the minister to wrap up. David?
Dr. Jones was right. One critical element of infrastructure is your energy delivery system. So in Puerto Rico, our energy delivery system was totally obliterated. So we had to start over. And when we started over, we said, we're not going to build it how it was. We're going to build it with the best technology. So we can have a smart electric grid. We're going to put in smart transformers. We're going to digitize our grid. We're going to put in smart meters so we know what customers are using, have two-way communication. We're going to put in some of the best technology that we know how. But it's very difficult because it requires participation by the consumers as well. They have to take pride in you trying to refurbish and to rebuild the energy delivery system. So infrastructure is the first link, in my opinion. If you're trying to improve your overall electricity resiliency, you have to have a strong infrastructure to do that. And it takes everybody to get involved.
So before Daniel can close, I just quickly wanted to recognize a veteran of journalist, somebody many of you learning from, because they've been in the profession forever. He worked here at the ministry before. He was minister counselor for Press and Public Affairs at our embassy in Washington, D.C. at one time. He's currently a resident of the United States of America. He's in country. He talked to this year at our press conference. Mr. Samuel Abu, welcome, sir. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. That's San Abu, if you ever heard of San Abu. The guy who run Star Radio and all those stuff. Yeah. All right. Radio very glad as well. Somebody here is going out to know what is. And for us, our goal for transformation here at the ministry continues. We are about to publish our bid for the total renovation of the building. But while we are steps away from doing that, we are going to almost immediately start the complete re-roofing of the building. We have some resources, not government resources in this instance, so begin to roof the building. Because we all have in this country, we make all these dilapidated structures, offices that are not functional. So even if the government gives or not, as leaders, the people in charge of these entities, we should be able to widen the horizon where we can engage and have elections. So in a couple of days, you see people on top of the roof, and all of these, they're going to be taking the whole roof down and change what it would work in the roofing sheet. And then the next thing you'll see is process of refurbishing. By that time, after all of these, when you're walking here as a stakeholder in the communication sector, you see a major information that you'll be part of it. Just one year.
The Liberia Legislative Corporation headed to China, but still sends representatives for.
Thank you very much. We commend the team from the LEC Electric Institute. Okay. For coming here to speak to you, members of the press. We also commend the minister for providing the information. But just before we close, I'd like to, the colleague who asked about visa in River G in Maryland County, LEC is not selling visa. It's a private agency that is selling visa for $100. So it is not LEC.